All right, guys, let me talk you through the B protocol for this week. And essentially, this is pretty quad heavy. So this idea of accumulation, we're still going to go 40-20, 40-20, 40-20. But we have essentially 11 exercises in a row. Because of the sweaty session yesterday, I want to cover off a lot on this session because you're not going to get too much of a physical workout. You're going to get a sweaty metabolic workout from that other protocol. So I'm going to probably do more in this session than I normally would. Okay. The first one is a Bulgarian split squat. So we're going to hit the legs pretty heavy. The Bulgarian split squat is when my back foot is on a small rise, and I've got obviously a Reebok step here with 2 rises. This is kind of the height that you would normally do the elevated split squat on in the gym. I don't want it any higher than this. So just note, this is different from the rear foot elevated we've done in the past. Rear foot elevated, I put my top of my leg on whatever, and then the pressure is really on that front quad. With a Bulgarian split squat, it's still a split squat kind of position that I want. So my toe is on the back, and if I allow that back knee to hit the ground, it's a heck of a stretch through this front hip. That's what's very different from the rear foot elevated when my foot is flat and I'm just loading up the front leg. I didn't really feel anything in my hip at all. So a Bulgarian is probably the toughest of all the split squats. Now, and if you think about it, the weight is disproportionately put on the front leg anyway. So we're going to start with 40 seconds with a Bulgarian split squat. It's pretty easy to explain anyway. You're going to have 20 seconds off. Then you're going to go into a normal split squat. But here's the key. The same foot is going to stay forward for all 3. So you're just going to simply come off a Bulgarian. Now, I don't have such a stress to the hip or stretch to the hip, but the back knee is still going to hit the ground. Now, I do not unload this I was about to say tibia, but the lower leg I want to keep vertical. So I'm not going to come and lock it out. So if I'm coming down and every rep I'm coming out locking my knee, that's not the point. I want it vertical. So I'm coming down slow. Speed it's not about speed, it's just about constant pressure through the leg. Cool? Up and straight back down. Then, after 40 seconds, my left leg just did the first 2 sets. It's going to do the third one. It's going to go to a front foot elevated, which is the easiest of all the 3, but now you're most fatigued, right? And you come down, let the back knee drop, come up, coming down slow. Even a 3-second count is pretty good. So coming down 3, 2, 1, up. Easy. Here's the catcher though. I've only done my left leg. You've got to do both legs. So you've got to go left, Bulgarian, left normal split squat, left front foot elevated, and then 20 seconds off, then switch to right, Bulgarian, right, and then right foot elevated before we move on. Cool? So you've got to go left and right. I would have a rest of 60 seconds after that because that's pretty brutal. That's in fact probably the hardest thing I've given anyone, you guys, from this perspective. Now, we want to, again, do this idea of accumulation. I played with this and it does seem to work. We're going to do a pike push-up. So the pike push-up, just remember, is your knees are locked. My hands are back as far as they can, and I almost just mentally anyway draw a picture between my thumbs. That is where my forehead is going to touch. But if I look up, and I look up to where I'm like literally looking at my hands, it lifts the whole chest up to more of a push-up. I don't want that. I want to tuck the head down and look at your toes because that makes it much more of a shoulder press. Cool? So on my pike push-up, this is after 60 seconds after doing both legs. You start through here, just touch the forehead, drive back up. Cool? After that, I've played with this and it works really well. I actually use coconut water because it was skinny, it was full, but it was skinny and reasonably heavy. But get the heavier objects you can. If you have dumbbells, get dumbbells. But you only really need, and this is why it works with something from a home perspective, you don't need 5, 7, 8 kg dumbbells. You need 3 or 4 kgs. And you're just going to go into a lat raise. I just want to finish off the shoulders as much as possible. So I have 2 cans of beans here. And literally, I didn't do it with this when I played with this. I did it with coconut water. But after my pike push-up, the only thing I want, your legs are fried from that. The only thing literally left I want to fry is just the shoulders. Literally up, up, up. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Cool? Easy enough. Now, from this perspective, I want you to try and grab something. So I'll show you what I use here. And I'm going to just steal these 2 things. If you'll see these two things here, and these work really, really well. You could, and I have done this as well, I've used children's books, but get small hard copy books. Don't get with a soft cover. Or a trainer said they used it with a magazine, but I find the magazine slides a little bit. Socks on lino works really well as well, depending on how slippery the socks are, how clean the lino is. Of course, there are many variables. But we want some surface to slide on. And the hard, like a little, you know, Hallie, you know, it's a not even an A4 size, it's smaller, but it's a hard cover little children's book. They work really well as well. You're going to go into a shalk. I'm put my heels in. A shalk is it's an acronym, but the HELC anyway is a hip extension with leg curl. The S is a Swiss ball, but we're not going to do it with a Swiss ball. And I don't want you doing this with a Swiss ball. In fact, if you have a Swiss ball at home, you could do the first one with a Swiss ball, and I'll show you that. The second one you can't though. You still need some sort of option like this. Cool? Now, as I curl in, it's really common for me to curl in and see how I'm breaking to the hip here a little bit and then lifting up. I talked through this on the very first protocol, but we never did this in an accumulation phase. We did this as an isolation. We did this as 60 seconds, and then we did something else. This is the first time we're going to go bang, bang, bang. So you've done that shalk on, geez, might have been week 1. But I want the hips to be lifted up and then back down. See how I don't break through here? That's the key. Now, you're going to go 40 seconds. Fair enough. Then you have 20 seconds off. Then you're going to go up and you're going to alternate. So it's 1, 2, 3. But I'm not lifting the hips. See how I'm able to be broken with my hip flex there? 4, 5. Cool. That's easy enough. And then, you know the little shelf that you use for the Bulgarian split squat? That's the shelf I want here because I want the toes on it. And it's a hip extension toes on ball. So I'm literally just lifting up 1, 2, 40 seconds worth. I like this because the toes mean you point your toes, well, point your feet. If you point your feet, your calves come into play. The first one doesn't, the shalk, and nor does the alternating leg curl. So the third one is about bringing everything in. But if I were to cue anything, it's still squeeze your glutes. I know by the mere fact that you're going to point your toes, your calves are going to work. Most people are stronger in their hamstrings than they are the glutes, so the hamstrings are going to be cranking. It's the glutes you still need to focus on. Cool? So it's still small motion, squeeze, 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 and you touch the ground as a reference point, but not a resting point. So you're not going to land on it and go, and then go up again. You literally touch and go, touch and go, touch and go. And it's actually pretty quick. Cool. So from a shalk perspective, 20 seconds off into that alternating, call it a leg curl, into a hip extension toes on ball, 40 on, 20 off, 40 on, 20 off, 40 on, 20 off. And there's a lot here. That's actually like 11 exercises in a row, not including the fact that you do the legs twice. So it's actually 14 exercises. You can go left, 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 right, right, right. Then the pike push-up with a lateral raise, with the shalk, with the alternating leg curl, with the hip extension toes on ball. Now, I've included rest periods in that. But after that, after you finish the hip extension toes on ball, if you're going to have the longest rest, that's where you have it. Very rarely do we go from legs to back to legs again. So because you're going to go from that to a Bulgarian split squat. Cool. Don't forget we've got the Saturday circuits in there as well, which if you wanted to, I'm just thinking I could even record them and put them on the Facebook page somewhere for you guys, even in the closed members group. But the idea is that adds on to what we're doing here. And there's so many sit-ups involved in that alone. That's pretty brutal. Plus on the previous program on this A, we've got the plank with the lower abdominal one. So yeah, that's a lot for you guys to go through. And that is a pretty leg heavy day with the use of shoulders. I'm trying to give the chest just a little bit of a rest because we really cook it a lot, especially on the Saturday with what we're doing at the moment. So hopefully that really helps you guys. Keep going, aim to do this twice. Don't forget the progressions will be from 40-20 week 1 to 45 and 15, which is a 10% increase, right? That's tough. 45 and 15, just make sure that the 15 doesn't become really 20 because you're going, oh, it's 0-0 and I'm going to go back down. No, you really take 15 seconds. So you really try to bang, you're 57, 58, you're lying down. When it hits 60 again, you're off. So keep to that, but it's really tough. And good luck, guys.